Welcome to Coffee, Culture, and the Capital with Sophia and Greg.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. If you are a parent or a grandparent or a teacher, you definitely want to tune into the entire podcast. We're going to be talking about some opting out things. Sometimes parents hear opt out and they think, oh yeah, we can opt our kids out of sex ed. There's been a lot of court cases, a lot of rulings, and a lot of changes on parental rights. We're going to dive into all of that. We're going to talk about some crazy things happening at the UCs, the University of California's, some freedom of speech questions. Maybe, you send your kid to college or you go to college thinking you're going to be taught how to learn, not what to think. And we're kind of seeing that happen here. We're going to dive into that. And then we're going to talk about a crazy bill about sexual acts against a minor and whether or not you can run for state or local office if you have committed those crimes. And so that bill is completely insane. When Greg first saw it, we're on the phone, we're looking up the different things. There's no way this can be what they're trying to change the bill to be. We're going to dive all into that, clarify some things, let you know where the bill stands. But with that, Greg, it's summertime. Maybe some of the parents that have their kids in public school and all year long have to spend so much time on what's happening in the classes, what's being shared. Is there certain flags in my third grader child's class? What is going on? They finally get a summer break, have their kids back with them, but they're going to go back to school soon. And what is going on? What is the good news for parents as they head back into school in this August?
Right. For decades, California schools have told parents one thing. You can opt out of one thing, and that's sex ed, and that's it, right? Everything else, gender ideology, DEI, CRT, inclusive storybooks, you can't keep your kids from seeing those at school. Well, that era has just ended, but most parents don't even know about it. And this is all because there are some great Supreme Court rulings over the last year or so, and they have great effect on your ability to opt your kids out of all kinds of curriculum. So the first was Mahmoud versus Taylor. The Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that when a parent has a sincere religious or moral objection to a lesson, the school now must give you a chance to opt out. That is revolutionary, right? Then a second Supreme Court decision, Mirabelli versus Bonta, the court held that California can no longer hide a child's gender transition from parents. That case is still going through the court, but the Supreme Court, because of two brave teachers down in Escondido who said, we're not going to keep secrets about these secret transitions of kids, changing their name and pronoun without parents knowing about it. They sued in federal court. They won, and now the Supreme Court is coming to the defense. And so that case is still ongoing, but the Supreme Court has already indicated, no, you can't do this, right? And also, just recently, the Ninth Circuit, which used to be a pretty liberal court, is now reacting to the Mirabelli case. And another case, it was called Huntington Beach versus Newsom. And the state had passed a law that Newsom signed, AB 1955, that said that a school district couldn't require teachers to tell parents when they've changed their name and pronoun. And the Ninth Circuit said, yeah, you're going to have to do that because the Constitution requires that you not secretly transition kids. And so because of all these rulings, this means that you now, parents, have a right to pull your kids out of CRT lessons, any gender identity lessons, LGBT ideology stuff, DEI programming, any storybooks that are encouraging kids to think that, two dads or two moms is just a normal family, sex surveys, anything that conflicts with your family's faith, you can now ask your school for an opt-out. That's huge, right? And so we provide some tools that make it very easy on our website. You can go to showing you a website that is making this really easy for parents. It's called optoutca.org. You take a 2-minute survey, you pick out what you want to opt out of, and it will send your school district a letter to your principal and superintendent and tell them you want this next year your kids to be opt out of particular curriculum. And so this is great, but parents have to use it.
Absolutely. And so, Greg, a parent might be hearing this and they might start thinking, okay, do I have to go down to my school board and talk to them? Do I have to go hand deliver something to my principal? And so we put together a whole parental rights page that's going to be linked in the show notes. And Greg, what are some of the things they can find, or how difficult is this really for a parent? Is it that they're going to spend a whole week of their summer to dive into this to try to get their child opted out?
No, if you go to our resource page, we have like 3 different organizations, attorney organizations that provide an opt-out. So you print out that opt-out. You has little blank spaces what you want your kid opted out of, and you sign it and you send it off to your principal and your teacher, and they are now notified. It's their responsibility to make sure that they give you a chance to opt out of that type of curriculum for your child. This is K through 12, so especially elementary school age. There's so much stuff being pushed on your kids, and parents have been felt helpless. Like, what do I do? They won't let me opt out. Well, that's not true anymore. And what I hope happens is that whole Christian communities, if they opt out, everybody opts their kids out, that's going to have a huge effect on the school itself, right? They're going to have to listen to parents now when they're introducing objectionable material. Like if half the class is opting out of an elementary school curriculum, they're going to have to change the curriculum. And so you're going to have a huge effect. This is what it means to be salt and light in your community. And this is a great opportunity for Christians to speak up against stuff that we've been talking about forever. And so don't just be angry at things and then do nothing. This is an opportunity to actually do something.
Absolutely. So check out the show notes, grab those links. There's the Opt Out California one. That one's the one you just fill out on your computer and it gets sent straight to the school. You can look at the parental resources page to see all the different things. We have a whole webinar with multiple different attorneys that come on and explain it. So go watch that. That's all on the parental rights page at CFC in the show notes. Check that out, fill it out, opt your child out of some of the crazy things that are going directly against your religious beliefs. But make sure to tell your community. Tell the other moms and dads, share it around. Make sure that if you have nieces and nephews or if you have grandchildren, that you talk to the parents and get everyone opted out of this nonsense, because children deserve to be educated, not indoctrinated. And so protect your child from being indoctrinated. Send them to school and trust that they're just going to get a good education. And this is the first step in that right direction. But Greg, the indoctrination doesn't stop after you're done with 8th grade or after you're done with senior year of high school. What are we seeing go down at the university level in California right now?
Right. The gender ideology push that you can pick your gender, that there's, gender is a feeling, it's not based on biology, is really being pushed into our whole society. And now they're starting to punish those who disagree. And so there has been pushback. So I just wrote a story, or put together a story. It's on our website. It's about the University of California being sued because they are now punishing students who believe that there are only 2 sexes. And you're thinking, oh, really? Is that really what's happening? Yes. And so I go through the lawsuit and explain the evidence for this. And how are they doing this? Defending Education is the organization who's filed the federal lawsuit. And it's against specifically UCLA, UC Irvine, UC San Diego, but it's all the UC systems. And it's based on this it's called sexual violence and sexual harassment policy that they have just implemented at the school starting January 1st. So they force everyone to go through a training in order to register for class. And then they give you a test. And if you don't get 100% on this test they just gave you, then you don't get to register for classes. Now, you're thinking, well, sexual violence, sexual harassment, I mean, Christians aren't for that. And you're right. But it includes something else. It includes discrimination based on gender identity. And you're thinking, well, what does that mean? Well, if you harass someone based on gender identity, and what is harassment supposed to look like? Well, if you make someone who thinks they're the opposite sex when you know they aren't, if you make them feel, if you disagree with them, if you misgender them, if you don't use their preferred pronouns, if you object to them playing on the wrong sex sports team, if you speak up about that like Sophia does all the time, you will be violating their sexual harassment policy. No misgendering, no dead naming. This is now is been illegal, right? And it's what's happening is these 4 students are involved in this lawsuit. They said, I have to keep my opinions about what I think about sex and gender completely to myself. And if I speak out, if I show my disagreement, I could be charged with harassment, right? And they say you're making the campus unsafe for a transgender person simply because you are voicing a different view on gender, on what makes a person a male or a female. Why does this matter? Well, religious liberty means you should be able to voice your opinion about what God says about males and females and what makes you a male or female. The First Amendment protects your right to hold those beliefs and speak those beliefs, and the state cannot compel you to say something that you do not believe. But that is exactly what the state is saying.
Yeah, absolutely. So something that I think is so important is these 4 students could have said, we're just going to go along to get along. We're just going to take the test. We're going to just pass it. We're just going to put not the answers that we believe in, but the answers that we know will get us to pass this so we can get our classes. It's hard to get your classes at these UCs. I mean, it's hard to get all the classes you want at any college. Sometimes you see people take more than 4 years because they couldn't even get into the classes. And so a lot of students could just be like, gotta get this done. Yeah, sure. Whatever you think. Sure. Men could be girls and girls can be guys, whatever. Let me get my classes. I'm paying a lot. Let me get out of here. And these 4 students are like, no, I'm not. You're not going to compel my speech. I believe in the truth. And I think that's how every Christian needs to be living. If every Christian started saying, no, God made us male and female. He didn't make a mistake in how he made us. You are not going to force me to say that boys can be girls can be boys, all these different things about sex and gender. I'm only going to say the truth. I think we would see this issue turn around pretty quickly. And so let this be inspiring to everyone listening. I mean, it's inspiring to me. Don't just go along to get along. Stand up, say what's right, because we don't do it. And then we wonder why there's so much confusion for the children. Why are they so confused? Because we're not stopping it. We're not saying no. We're not standing against it. And so we need to be. We need to say no more. I'm going to speak the truth. And so you might think, well, I'm in my 60s. I'm in my I'm out of college. I don't have to deal with this. It's coming after you too. It's not stopping at the school system. We're seeing different bills right now go through the legislature on hate speech training that's going to hit the workplace. And it's not going to stop. They're going to keep pushing their agenda. And we have to put our foot down and say, I'm not going to lie as a Christian when I have the truth from the Lord. And so just let that inspire you all.
And you should have courage that, the law is behind you. I mean, 80 years ago, the Supreme Court decided in West Virginia State Board of Education versus Barnett, and the Supreme Court said you can't force a child at school to say the Pledge of Allegiance against his will or her will. So if you can't force somebody to say the Pledge of Allegiance, you can't force someone to say somebody else's preferred pronoun, right? And, and you see this. Sadly, similar things have happened in communist countries where, people were punished for the very things they said, true things. Right? And I draw strength from a guy named Alexander Solzhenitsyn, who was exiled from his own homeland for questioning what Stalin was saying. And he had some great advice for those who remained. How do we resist the Soviet Union, who's so overpowering? How can we do that? He said, just live not by lies. Don't repeat what you don't believe, even when silence would be easier. So everyone needs to be committed to that and not just go along to get along.
Absolutely. And Greg, there's not just crazy stuff happening in the education world, unfortunately. We're now seeing, or not even now, we've been seeing crazy stuff, crazy bills at the state capitol. And now there's some bills that was trying to make some good moves about who can run for state or local office in California and, pass through the assembly. Great bill. Both sides of the aisle were passing it through. And then it had a little pit stop where there was some changes made, some amendments. And, sometimes when a bill has an amendment, it's just changing a small thing here or there. But this completely changes this bill from being a good bill to a extremely disturbing bill. So, Greg, AB 2691, you testified in opposition to it with regards to the amendments. What is going on with this bill?
Right. Well, this bill started out really good. It was about keeping, it was called the Public Trust Protection Act, and it was authored by a Democrat, and it was going to disqualify people convicted of felony sexual assault or human trafficking from running or holding elected office. So, yeah, that seems like if you've been convicted of felony sexual assault or human trafficking, that should disqualify you, right? And so it went through the assembly, no problem, and I don't think there was any votes no on it. And then it got to the elections committee in the Senate, and this elections committee is chaired by state Senator Scott Wiener out of San Francisco, and he has been having a reputation, and we've seen this in some of the amendments and things he's introduced. He's trying to slowly normalize adults having sex with willing teenagers. And so because of this, he wanted some amendments, some carve-outs, and he wanted a specific carve-out for adults who have sex, felony sodomy, oral copulation, sexual penetration, when this is committed against a minor age 17. And and we're not talking about forcible rape. Now, if somebody commits forcible rape on anybody, that would still, you would preclude you from running for office. If you found a willing teenager, an adult found a willing teenager, 14 through 17, and you had sex with them, well, that's not so bad. And so he wanted those to be exempt. What in the world? And so, I confronted him about it in the hearing. At first, I thought the bill was saying all minors, and it's because I had just seen the bill the day before, and it was a little confusing. And so I asked him to clarify, like, what in the world? We can't even believe this is real. And so, why don't you hear some of the testimony yourself? You can see the questions I asked.
Person convicted of felony sexual assault against an adult would be barred from public office. A person convicted of the same act against a minor would not be. Adult victim, you're disqualified. Child victim, you may run for school board. Chair members, my name is Greg Burr with the California Family Council, representing tens of thousands of constituents in more than 2,000 churches across California. When we read the June 24th amendment to AB 2691, our honest reaction was that it could not be real. We assumed we'd misread it. We sat in our office and tried to imagine how anyone could stand up and defend it. So I'm here today genuinely hoping someone will tell us why crimes against children are being carved out of this bill. Let me be clear about what we support. Barring people convicted of felony sexual assault and human trafficking from holding public office is good policy. We want to support the bill. But the amendments, we were told this committee chair demanded exempt convictions for felony sodomy, oral copulation, and sexual penetration against children. So here is where the bill now stands. A person convicted of felony sexual assault against an adult would be barred from public office. A person convicted of the same act against a minor would not be. Adult victim, you're disqualified. Child victim, you may run for school board. No one has offered a rationale. The committee's own analysis does not offer one. The bill passed the Assembly floor 67-0 before this amendment existed. The unanimous vote was a clean bill. Other states put children first. Utah permanently bars anyone convicted of grievous sexual assault against a child from serving on a school board. This amendment moves California in the opposite direction. It protects child victims least, exactly where the protection is needed most. We are ready to become strong supporters the moment these three exemptions are removed. Until then, we urge a no vote, and we're still waiting for a clear justification. Thank you.
Like, that was so well done because, you were just so, real and honest about this, what we're reading. We didn't even believe it right away because seems pretty extreme, but I love that you really threw the question back on him, like you said, just really, can you explain why we would want this? And there wasn't really an answer given to you on the situation, but I think you could really just hear, and like even the way you read your testimony, how you feel about it. It's, there's some things that are just so evil at the Capitol where it's like, what's going on? Blah, blah, blah. But this was just like, what are we doing here? What is this real? And so I just think you did a phenomenal job, Greg. And that testimony has gone just viral on our social media.
Yeah, I usually don't have a testimony that goes viral, but for whatever reason, this hit a chord with people. I mean, you look at the comments, people are just, they just can hardly believe someone would actually make these kind of exemptions. And the thing is, I think Scott Wiener knew that he had no defense because he didn't clarify, no, this is only for teenagers. It's not for all kids. And it's not for forcible rape. It's only for kids who volunteer to have sex with adults, right? He didn't make that correction. He just criticized me for not introducing a bill myself. In previous interviews, not previous, interviews afterwards, they're trying to say, well, this is just to prevent, boyfriend and girlfriend relationships from being, getting caught up. An 18-year-old having sex with a 17-year-old. But it's not, because it specifically mentions in their exemption anyone over 21 with anyone under 16. But under 14's still excluded, but so that's 14, 15-year-olds with someone over 21. So don't tell me this is about, boyfriend, girlfriend, or even two young guys. This is not what this is about. And so you would think, I've done a couple interviews, I did an interview in Virginia, because people around the country are like, what in the world? And I think we shouldn't be surprised, because California every year celebrates Harvey Milk Day. And Harvey Milk, is an icon of the LGBT rights movement. We celebrate him in schools. And folks, if you have a copy of his biography, The Mayor of Castro Street, they have a whole chapter on his sexual relationship when he was 33 with a 16-year-old. And it's talked about as like, ish. Yeah, there was no objections. No one objects to this part of Milk's life. And because of that, it's lowering everybody's moral compasses to accept this as normal, right? And that is what we must resist. We can't let this kind of behavior become something that is acceptable and moral. And, and so it should be a disqualifying thing if, an adult has sex with a 14-year-old, right?
It's just so disturbing. And like you said, Greg, even those ages, it's not like it's like, okay, well, it was two 17-year-olds that were dating in high school, and then one turned 18 and one 17 for like one more month. Like it's a 25-year-old and a 15-year-old. Like no 25-year-old should have an interest in a 15-year-old. And the fact that we're even trying to say like, well, that 15-year-old can consent to that is just so disturbing. And so it's just disturbing. Greg, when we start to see these things come out of the state capitol with bills like this, with what Scott Wiener's trying to do here in this bill, with all of the bills on transgenderism, attacking children, I really just believe that when these people, because these legislators are extremely pro-abortion, and I really believe that if they are bought into the evil of abortion, the idolatry of abortion, and they are okay with killing innocent children, innocent babies in the womb, of course they do not really care what happens to the child outside of the womb. Okay, of course there's no respect for that individual's health and safety when you're bought into something that evil. And so I do believe that is when a state legislature starts to buy into the evilness of abortion and pushing it and celebrating it, like you said, we shouldn't be shocked when all this evil follows. And so it's disturbing, but we continue to stand up against it. We continue to push back and try to make a difference and try to stop the evil from prevailing.
Right. Well, folks, I know on these podcasts, we talk about some dark stuff. And I know that many of the things we talk about probably make you angry. So good, because if you are a Christian who follows the Lord, that you get angry at evil and sin. But just getting angry is not and sitting there in your anger is not productive. It is not helpful just to get angry and do nothing, right? Now that you know, now that you see, now that you realize what is happening, it's now your obligation to figure out what you're going to do about it, right? And that's what here at the California Family Council, we are providing avenues for you to actually do something. Don't just get mad. Don't just plan your exit strategy from California, right? No, you are here for a reason, right? And that's to be salt and light and to be light in the darkness, right? And we offer Christianity, and Jesus offers something so much better, but it's going to require speaking up, talking about it, and confronting your legislators if that's necessary. I mean, that's what Jesus did. Jesus and the disciples did a lot of confronting. Now, think about it. And they were pretty controversial over it. And that's why Jesus, people didn't like him all the time. You had some fans, and then but the people who didn't like him, they were the ones being confronted. But Jesus and his disciples turned the world upside down, right? And that's what we want to do. We want to turn the world upside down for the Lord, right? And so we are offering a lobby day, a time where you can come up to the Capitol. We will train you, and we will go over and talk to legislators' offices about these bills that we're concerned about. And there's also an opportunity for you to do the same thing in your own district. We'll show you how to do that and participate in our call-in campaigns, our action center on our website. You can go to on our homepage, at the bottom of the homepage, use the action center. But folks, don't just get angry and do nothing. That is not godly, right? Godly is and I was thinking about this morning. It kind of reminds me of the Good Samaritan, where the very religious people, they got very religious things to do, but they walk by and they see someone who is beat up, an evil that has happened, and they don't have time to stop and do anything. They might be upset that it happened, but they're not doing anything productive, right? And so if you see these kind of things happening, don't just put blinders on and just keep walking forward. That is just what the religious leaders did. And they walked right by the man wounded on the side of the road. This is something similar, folks. These bills are hurting people. They are hurting and harming the entire culture, right? And these are our legislators. They're supposed to be acting on our behalf up at the Capitol. Are they? Well, if they haven't heard from you, you're not. It's part of civic responsibility. Yes, vote. That's part of the civic responsibility, but also speaking up when you see bad things happening. And so I would encourage you to do a little more, right? Get involved somehow. Do anything but nothing.
Absolutely. And so make sure you go check out that lobby day. The link for it is in our bio. If you can make it in person, RSVP. If not, there is options to go lobby in your district. Every state legislator, both state senator and assembly member, have district offices that are located in their district. So still RSVP for that. We'll get you the things you need. And like Greg said, you can also visit our action center where you can do the calling campaigns. But I used to say, Greg, people would love to complain about politics and where California's at and all these things. And I used to say, if you're not voting, then don't complain. Now, my God, is if you're not making phone calls or getting involved or telling people or showing up to lobby, then don't complain. And again, we're not expecting everyone to be able to drop everything and fly or drive to the state capitol and do things like that. But you can make a phone call. And I promise it's not as scary as it seems. So go look at the link in the show notes. Check out the information on the lobby day. Share it on your social media. Go ask a couple of moms in your mom group to come with you to the state capitol to go do it. Go bring your neighbor. Bring your kids. Kids can come to this. If you're a homeschool family, take the day and bring your kids, and this will be your day of teaching them on how policy actually works firsthand. Bring them with you. We'll train you guys. We'll get you informed on the bills. We're here to hold your hand the entire way. And Greg, something people always say after they lobby for the first time with us is, wow, that was a lot easier and not as scary as I thought. Right. And, I think people get this idea, we have to go talk to state legislators and all these people. Most of the time you're talking to their staffers. Sometimes you get a state legislator, but they're just people too. And they work for us and our tax dollars go to them. So we need to make sure we're making an influence. As Christians, we should have a righteous anger that pushes us to then do what is right and stand for what is true and stand for what is good. So you guys have the opportunity to do that. All the stories we talked about will be linked in the show notes. read more about them, learn more about them, use the call and campaigns, share this with people, get involved, stand up for what is right. We hope to see you guys at the lobby day in Sacramento on August 4th. If you're down in Southern California, we hope to see you at our Life, Family, Liberty Gala on September 12th. Our keynote speaker is Seth Dillon, the CEO of the Babylon Bee. That will also be linked in the show notes. You guys can get tickets to that now. It is a great night of celebrating all of our fights that we've had, but also really just getting to get together in community, talk about the battle ahead, and just enjoy each other's presence for the night. So get your tickets for that. Be praying for CFC. If you can financially donate, we are a nonprofit. We work completely off of donations, and which I love because at the end of the day, we serve an audience of one. And we're not getting money from the government or all these different places. So if you have the ability, have it in your heart to maybe not get a coffee or 2 coffees this month, you know, the $10 monthly donors make such a big difference. The $20 monthly donors make such a big difference. So look at the show notes to donate as well. Sign up for our weekly newsletter. Once a week, you'll get an email with the lay of the land about what's going on in California. Follow along on social media. But with that, we will see you all next time.